Could Chainsaw Man actually solo the Hell of a Verse as seen in the properties Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss? Let's find out. Hazbin Hotel and Chainsaw Man are both very popular at the moment, and it's for good reason, as both properties have come up with recent projects to expand their IP. As seen with the Chainsaw Man Bomb Devil Girl arc, as well as with Hazbin Hotel Season 2 just going on currently. And because of that, it's become popular to talk about where these characters scale. And seeing as how one project is about defeating devils and demons and all the sort, and one show is about just devils and demons in general, I think that putting the hero of hell in the Hell of a Verse is pretty interesting and would make for a good video, hence the topic of today. As we're going to scale each of the citizens and populace of hell to see whether or not Denji or the Chainsaw Man could actually solo this verse. So essentially, it's just going to be kind of a pseudo successor to that Doom Guy video that you guys love, but instead of Doom Guy, I'm going to be putting Denji or Chainsaw Man. So obviously to all my Hazbin fans who felt like they got a bad hand last time, you guys have a chance this time. So if that sounds interesting to you, then be sure to stick around. But at the moment, I'm just going to show the channel, as yes, we're on the road to 110,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And it's a goal that I think that we can actually really reach. For those of you guys on the fence of hitting that subscribe button, I want to point out that I post long format videos like this once a week, as well as tons of shorts throughout the week to fill in the downtime. So just try to keep that in mind. I also want to point out that my variety of coverage is just very range, as we scale anime, films, games. We literally even scaled Mary Poppins last week. So just statistically speaking, there's probably at least one thing on the channel that I've covered or plan to cover that will pique your interest. So just considering it's all free on top of that, and I just think it's a pretty good deal. But with that being said, let's see if Chainsaw Man has what it takes to take down the multiple overlords, demons, and imps that make up the residents of the Hell of a Verse. According to the chart, the weakest characters in the Hazbin verse are the Imps and Hellhounds, with the Hellborn being a tier above them. But as we'll see, the Hellborn really lack any feats to really get them into their own part of the video. So we'll just scale these two groups together. And for the most part, these guys are consistently anywhere between wall level to large building level, with tons of characters and the Hell of a Boss cast being able to create craters to that yield, hurt characters that are so massive that their GPU will be in comparable ranges. And we even see the main cast survive an explosion that comes out to around large building level. So as we've seen, it's a level of power that is pretty consistent all around. And as for the speed of these characters, these guys should be in the supersonic to possibly hypersonic speed range, as they're just consistently shown to be bullet timers, right? But due to the way that some of these characters dodge bullets, like it's super duper casually, it's very high power ammunition at that. You could argue hypersonic for some of these guys. And honestly, this is complete light work for even a hybrid Denji. We don't even need Pochita for this one. As a very early series, Chainsaw Man was able to endure the Bat Devil's sonic screech attack, which was able to pretty much pulverize entire city blocks, and not surprisingly, the attack comes out as such. And Denji was pretty much at the epicenter of this attack, and he just walked out of it with only his shirt being unbuckled. Even if you just downplay the feat and just use the surface area, Denji would still have a large building level durability here. And once again, that really doesn't matter because Denji just proceeds to beat up said Bat Devil. So either way you look at it, at a low end, he's a city block level character. And in terms of his speed, he can match any of the imps as found in Hazbin, as he was able to contend and eventually defeat the Gun Devil's avatar. Keep in mind, said Gun Devil was able to shoot bullets across countries in seconds, and it's been calculated that his speed comes out to around massively hypersonic. So as it turns out, just a base Denji would be more than capable of defeating pretty much any imp or Hellborn as found in Hazbin. So with that being said, let's move on to the next tier of characters. And just like that, we can move on to the next group of characters, being the Sinners. And these guys are easy to scale, as they're above the last guys you've talked about, and they have feats to actually distinguish them. As Sir Pensius, who's a weakling confirmed by Vizzy Pop herself.
Pensius as a character is like, he's kind of a wimp in terms of the physical side of things. Like, he relies on his minions and he relies on his brain.
Meaning that he should presumably get upscaled by most of the Sinner cast. Has a feat in which in the pilot, which is sort of spiritually canon to the main show. But anyways, this is important because in said pilot, he's able to endure a blast that is potent enough to destroy city blocks at a low end, to even towns at a high end. So Sir Pensius is possibly around multi-city block to small town level. Though I want to note that he's not too deep in the town level, because it's later shown that a town level attack was enough to obliterate him, and it's narratively implied that this blast would have taken out most of the characters in the show as well. So Sir Pentious as our baseline or gauge kind of shows us the extent of durability that these guys should be able to take, and it comes out to around town level. And for this, all we need is a base hybrid Denji once again, because in the recent Chainsaw Man film, he's able to contend with the Bomb Devil, and he can even endure her strongest attack, which comes out to around 29 kilotons, and Chainsaw Man kind of just shrugs it off unironically. Obviously, it blasts him away, but he's not like about to die or anything. But you can get Denji even higher in this arc, as it's narratively implied that the Bomb Devil is superior to the Typhoon Devil, as the Typhoon Devil pretty much immediately concedes to Rize the second that she sees him, and that's a character who can literally casually generate storms, which at worst would come out to around sea level. This is literally the embodiment of storms, right? And she can casually conjure up these natural events, and she's conceding to Rize, a character who Denji can endure attacks from. So more than likely a base hybrid Denji once again would get into those town to sea level ranges, therefore he'd be more than powerful enough to take out any sinner from the Hazbin verse. So with that being said, once again, let's move on to some of the big boys that everyone likes to hype up. The next characters from Hazbin that we're going to talk about are the Overlords and the Royalty. And because of a statement from Vizzy herself, we can scale these two groups together, because she says between Stolas and Alastor, she doesn't really know who would win in a fight, though she leans towards Stolas. But the fact that she doesn't really know, it kind of implies relativity, especially in the way that she words it.
Who is more powerful, Alastor or Stolas?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Stolas, though.
No!
But I don't know.
Damn.
So pretty much we can just talk about Stolas' feats or Alastor's feats, and we can just assume that it would scale to any of the Overlords and Royalty. And we have a couple of feats to break down. Firstly, Vox is able to cause a nationwide blackout across Hell, which comes out to around island level. We've got a feat of Stolas splitting the sky that comes out to around large mountain level. Stolas also has a feat in which he's able to resist the pull of a dying star, which comes out to around island level. And he's also able to endure the moon shattering across, coming into contact with the sun. The overall breakage here comes out to around planet level, and due to Stolas' dimensions, he would have been enduring around country to multi-continentals worth of this overall friction. So he actually has pretty good durability, and everyone else would just scale to that. Just take that as well. Stolas also buffs the speed of the verse, as he's able to escape the explosion of a star, which comes out to around faster than light. So pretty much all of the Overlords should range anywhere between mountain to multi-continental at best, and they should possess faster than light combat speeds and reactions. So we've got a pretty substantial buff on our hands. Let's see how Chainsaw Man compares. But before that, I want to get into today's sponsor of the video, being myself. As you guys know, we recently hit 100,000 subscribers, and I'm very, very thankful. But with that being said, it kind of opened my mind, and I came to the realization that I want to expand our reach. I'm not asking for any money or anything like that. I'm just announcing that I'm going to be taking the platforms of Instagram and TikTok very seriously. So be sure to follow both of these platforms, right? I'm going to be posting all of my shorts on there earlier from now on. And on top of that, I'm going to be returning to making my post slideshow power scales or versus matchups. They're basically these kind of photo slideshows that explain a matchup or a character scaling. They're pretty nice to look at. I had fun making them, and I used to do these before I even made videos. So returning to this format is going to be very nostalgic, and I'm excited to do it. So be sure to follow these platforms. But yeah, I know that's not enough for you guys to actually go out and do that, as I'm going to propose something to you. If you get my Instagram and my TikTok to 10,000 followers apiece, I will actually unironically do a composite Godzilla video. And on top of that, I've got my face reveal on my Instagram. So if you want to see a composite Godzilla video, as well as see my face, be sure to follow these platforms. But with that being said, let's get back to Chainsaw Man. And honestly, when it comes to a base hybrid Denji, this is probably where he would stop. Not to imply he has higher ends than what I already proposed, seeing as how as early as the Bomb Devil arc, he's able to cut apart and slice the Typhoon Devil, literally the embodiment of typhoons, with these phenomena getting into those large islands, even small country level ranges at best. Like, once again, it's pretty consistent at these points that the devils are the concepts of the fears they embody, as when they're eaten by Pochita, they're literally just are wiped from existence. existence. So if we have a base hybrid Denji who scales to these typhoons, then, you know, that's pretty insane work. But seeing as how I said that the Overlords have possible multi-continental scaling, and yeah, Denji's kind of cooked. He also doesn't have any real consistent speed scaling to get him comparable to some of the Overlords and royalty. So yeah, Denji kind of just stops here. But when Denji goes down, Pochita's always there to lift them back up, as we're going to go into Black Chainsaw Man scaling right now. And this guy's just an absolute beast. As for starters, he's confirmed multiple times throughout the story to be pretty much the strongest devil, and he has feats that back that up. For starters, you've got the Gun Devil, who is narratively implied to be the biggest and strongest threat yet, upscaling him inherently above the Typhoon Devil, which is supported by the fact that Makima needed prep time and a whole bunch of contracts to really permanently put him down. Then stack that on top of the fact that we have other stronger primordial devils, such as the Darkness Devil, who Makima with a single bang could critically injure to the point where he just coughs up blood. And then later on in the series, we see this very same Makima just concede to Black Chainsaw Man, and she just literally says that a battle between him, even though she was jumping him, looks, quote, unwinnable. And then he goes on to survive multiple bangs that made the Darkness Devil spit up blood. So in part one, it's pretty consistent that he's like the top dog. And keep in mind, he was weakened on top of that as humanity had begun to soften up towards Chainsaw Man due to the hybrid's actions. He was viewed as somewhat of a hero, meaning that he was weaker here and he just objectively performs better than the Darkness Devil, and he has better inverse than the Gun Devil while weakened. So this is a character who casually gets into those island, the country level ranges. But for the higher end scaling, we have to dive into part two, as we're introduced to another powerful primordial devil, being the Falling Devil, which represents just the fear of falling. And she's got some really incredible feats, as she's so powerful that just by her passively being on the planet Earth, her gravity generated from her like just abilities caused the planet Earth to reverse its gravitational pull. And when calculated, it's been found that her passive aura or presence was generating energy comparable to the Earth's gravitational binding energy 2 times over. So this is a planetary character that just gets that by being here. And well, how does this scale to Black Chainsaw Man or Pochita? And well, we've got a character known as Yoro, who's one of the 4 horsemen devils, and she represents war. And after America reinvents nukes, she becomes so powerful that when she comes into contact with the Falling Devil, she's just grown so much in power. She's just like, I beat you. And she turns the Falling Devil into a cult. And keep in mind, currently, this is the same Yoro who's literally fighting Black Chainsaw Man and losing pretty much consistently. It's gotten so bad that she's calling random no-name devils to help aid her in this conflict. So Pochita, as of currently, is so powerful that he's got characters that can look at guys who are arguably planetary and just immediately make them into like their fit. And she's got that person calling for backup, meaning that Black Chainsaw Man is casually into those planetary ranges. And as for his speed, it's equally as impressive because like pretty much everything in Chainsaw Man Part 2, we've got a pretty substantial speed upgrade. Yoro has the ability to change things into her weapons. And there's an instance in which Black Chainsaw Man or Pochita or whatever is about to hit him with a chainsaw, and she's able to conjure up a weapon from all the way across the world and have it get to her before Chainsaw Man can swipe at him. If you assume that Pochita is merely like the speed of sound, which is a low ball at this point, it's been found that Yoro's webification would be faster than the speed of light 84 times over. And if you think this is a high ball calc, the Versus Wiki of all places has accepted this, the place that's notorious for downplaying. And keep in mind, after this point, Pochita is just blitzing Yoro just for the culture. So Pochita is arguably more than likely planetary, and he's blitzing characters that are 84 times faster than the speed of light. To put it simply, he's a beast. And to be honest, that's pretty much the end of the video, believe it or not, because while there's higher levels of demons in hell, they don't really have any quantifiable feats, as the Overlords and the royalty are the guys who just have the best quantifiable calcs. Literally the only scaling for like the 7 deadly sins and Lucifer is that they're stronger than everyone we talked about. We can apply a one-shot difference of around 7.5 to 10 times for each subsequent group. So maybe, you know, Lucifer is 20 times stronger than the average royalty, but even then, that's nowhere close to planetary. And even if you want to lowball, there's a calc that gets the Falling Devil's presence to around 20 exatons, or multi-continental plus, and it's a feat that's around 200 times more potent than the best thing we got for Stolas. So even if you want to apply these one-shot multipliers for a hypothetical Lucifer, I mean, the Falling Devil is still way stronger than anything in the verse. Euro beats said character with a stare, and Chainsaw Man is beating Euro up. And that's not even talking about the speed discrepancy, as Chainsaw Man has elite perception, blitzing a character who can react, as well as summon objects at nearly 100 times faster than the speed of light. And once again, that's us being generous to Hazbin and lowballing Chainsaw Man. So with that being said, the Hazbin verse would just be a walk in the park for Pochita. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next week with another video, but as always, until then, stay Big G fans.